I think he's 25, 26 years old, and he's just got such great ability. Reminds me of Chris Dolman when he came into the league. Maybe Chris a little bit bigger guy, but Daniil just such a chiseled athlete and just powerful, and yet speed wise, and man, can he run. And you could see that as he was the lead block for.
He forced the fumble, then get out in front of a deck and an Agbo. Sorry, I'm bad with pronunciation.
Odenifo.
Thank you. Odenifo.
And Afadi did a great job of picking the ball up and then following his lead block, which was Daniil Hunter, and to the end zone, which, as you said, was the critical play in the game. And to me, I think it's the defensive player of the year for the Vikings, because at that point in time, as you said, it's really a 10-point swing. The Chargers are going to at least go in for 3. Vikings turn it around. Instead of trailing 12-10 at that point, they're up 19-10, and that's a huge difference in the ball game. Or they would have been down 13-12 at that point. They're up 12-10, and so a 10-point swing. And I think it really took the wind out of the Chargers' sails, especially when they come out first play of the second half, and Melvin Gordon coughs it up on the first play too. And so you look at what happened in that game turnover-wise. Really huge, and Daniil Hunter, a huge part of that. Great player, deservedly made his second straight Pro Bowl.
Absolutely. What topic around the NFL intrigues you the most right now? When we were chatting before we started the show, you mentioned, hey, come get me. I mean, that is a fascinating moment. The Cleveland Browns go into the season with all that obvious talent, having made all those dramatic moves, with Baker Mayfield kind of having rallied the season. And here they are late in the season getting beaten by Arizona, which has nothing to play for. And Jarvis Landry reportedly is yelling, come get me, at the Arizona sideline. And Odell Beckham Jr. the week before was caught, basically telling Jimmy Garoppolo, hey, I'd come here. In other words, come to San Francisco. It's all falling apart there.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I got to say, I was never one to be on their bandwagon going in, because it's the Browns, and they had to show me before I was going to believe that they could really turn it around. And I had my doubts about a rookie head coach that was brought into the fold in Freddie Kitchens, and I think that what's been proven out is that he's not up for the task, and it's an undisciplined team. We saw that with the Myles Garrett incident, some of the other things that have happened this year penalty wise, and just out of control team. And I think that in terms of Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, they're obviously very talented guys, but they're just kind of me guys, and especially Beckham, and we know that. And I had my doubts about that trade in the first place, that it would work out for them. And I kind of felt the same thing about Antonio Brown going to Oakland, said that. And I felt the same way about Beckham, which I did write about in Sporting News, in my sportingnews.com column this week, that even if Beckham thinks he's leaving, he's not going anywhere, because a GM does not give up a first and a third round pick and a starting player in Jabril Peppers and then dump a guy after 1 year unless he gets an astronomical offer in return.
Which he's not going to get.
He's not going to get. It'd have to be at least a first round pick and probably more. It's not going to happen with Beckham. That I think other teams are wise to his shenanigans and the fact that he is a diva, that really he wants to be more of a celebrity than a great player at this point. And his numbers are down, and he's had injuries in the past. So I think they're stuck with Odell. Odell's stuck with them for another year at least. And then after that, there'll be no dead money on the cap for the Browns with Beckham's contract. But I think the other thing with John Dorsey, who I have respect for as a GM, I thought he did a really good job in Kansas City, and his track record in Green Bay. I like John, but I think this was just a move that he's going to regret, that having made this trade and having hired Freddie Kitchens, which perhaps that was more Jimmy Haslam, the owner, who has a terrible track record in picking coaches. And so to me, what probably needs to be done, but I'm not sure it's going to happen, is I think they need a coaching change and probably a scheme change offensively, so that they can find a way to, first of all, get Baker Mayfield back on track. Because last year he had a 93-something rating. This year it's down to 78. He's got 17 interceptions, and he's just really making mistakes and has regressed as a starting quarterback. And then they're not getting the ball to Beckham and Landry enough. Beckham's on pace for career lows in receptions, yards, and only 2 touchdown receptions this year. So they need a change there. And I think it's a mistake if they keep Kitchens, but as we said, if they fire him, that would be Haslam's 7th coach in 9 years in Cleveland, which is pretty unbelievable and just shows, again, the instability of that franchise and that it's really a dumpster fire under Jimmy Haslam's ownership, as it was previously.
Absolutely.
So I think the Browns are just a mess.
All right, let's wrap up the show talking about Viking cornerbacks and making our pick. We do want to thank B52 Burgers and Brew for sponsoring the program and hosting your show.
Yeah, definitely, Jim. And B52 Burgers and Brew, Inver Grove Heights in Lakeville, fantastic restaurant. Encourage everyone to get out there. They have a terrific menu, 25 varieties of burgers and great entrees and appetizers, Monday night specials, and a fantastic Sunday brunch. And B52 Burgers and Brew in Inver Grove Heights, which is 5 minutes from Vikings headquarters in Eagan, is our home of Monday Night Purple, our show on News Talk 830 WCCO, which is live on Monday nights, except for next week. It'll be on Thursday night because of the Monday night game against the Packers, and then Christmas Eve and Christmas. So we're moving to Thursday night next week. December 26th will be our next show, and our special player guests will be Mackenzie Alexander and Amir Abdullah. And on our show just the other night, we had Afadio Denabo. It was good timing.
Afadio Denabo. I know how to pronounce his name. I don't know why
you're going to learn because he's getting better and better.
I pronounced it correctly before. I just choked. And I apologize.
Yeah, and he's got 5 sacks on the season now, including that huge touchdown return.
He's a good player
against the Chargers. Good player and really coming on, kind of a breakout year for him. So he was with us, and also Armon Watts, the young defensive tackle, who's getting more and more play time in place of Linval Joseph and Shamar Stephen, kind of spelling those guys inside. And he's done some nice things and had the big deflection that Anthony Harris returned for the touchdown in Seattle. So Armon Watts is a guy, keep an eye on him for the future, and really a smart guy, all academic SEC player from Arkansas. It was kind of fun. We kind of felt like we had some of the brains of the defense on the show the other night because Afadi's a Northwestern guy, a really smart guy, and so is Armon. And although Stephen Weatherly, of course, would argue with those guys being from Vanderbilt, smart guy too. Another smart guy. They got some smart guys on defense.
They do.
But anyways, that's B52 Burgers and Brew, a terrific restaurant and great host for our Monday Night Purple show. And look forward to next week's show, Thursday, December 26th.
So the Vikings invested heavily in their defense after bringing in Mike Zimmer. They invested heavily in the defensive line, and it remains a great strength of the franchise that they have not only high talent there, but they also have quality depth. They've invested heavily in the cornerback position, and it is a major problem. Rhodes is some combination of struggling and hurt. Wayne's, I don't think he's having a particularly good season. Just the fact that he's been better than Rhodes has kind of hidden him from more criticism, I think. Mackenzie Alexander, I think he's gone after this year. I think he wants to be gone after this year. And then, you have question marks behind that. Holton Hill, maybe. Mike Hughes, talent, but pretty raw still. It's a problem for this organization that the cornerback position is not faring better at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating because last year when Mike Hughes was the first round pick, and everybody said, "Oh, how can you pick a cornerback?" and Zimmer said, "Hey, you can never have too many corners," and it's kind of showing that right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pick a corner first round next year.
I think they probably will.
Yeah, and because I think that Rhodes will probably be gone, and they can pick up $8 million on the cap for savings that they're going to need to be able to sign potentially a Dalvin Cook and some of the other players and just to be able to survive under the cap. And so, yeah, I think I'm not sure that I agree on Mackenzie Alexander. I think that he could be back here. And I think Waynes has had a decent year, not a great year, but I think he, as you said, has been a little more reliable. They haven't really been throwing at him as much because they've been going after Rhodes and Mike Hughes lately, particularly last week. But I do think that there will be some big turnover at corner. I've seen some pretty good things at times from Holton Hill. Can you rely on him off the field? That's a question mark too. And so
he does have talent, though.
Yeah, I think he does, and I think that they're could well be. I would not be surprised if the starting threesome at corner next year is Hughes and Hill and Mackenzie Alexander still playing the slot. And but we'll see how that shakes out. But I think first round pick or a second round pick will definitely be a corner next year for this football team. And I just can't see how Xavier Rhodes can survive unless he takes a big pay cut and with big incentives built back into it. But even still, it's just been a rough go for him.
Yes, and I don't expect Alexander back. I don't expect Rhodes back. And then the question is, what do you do if that's the case? They might have to keep Waynes around just because he's an NFL corner, and they're going to need NFL corners to start the season. And it's, to me, that's why the Vikings have such a great home record and a spotty road record, is because at home the pass rush dominates and the cornerbacks get a little help. And on the road, the cornerbacks got to play straight up, and they've gotten torched.
Yeah, and I think that come playoff time, if the Vikings presumably get in, if they can win one of these last two games, or if the Rams get beat by the 49ers and the Vikings clinch, and you look at potential matchups in the playoffs, you got to be nervous about facing Drew Brees, who just completed 29 out of 30 against the Colts, and Russell Wilson. And
Garoppolo's had a good season.
And although the 49ers would be the team I would fear the least because they don't have the playoff experience, potentially, and Garoppolo will be his first playoff game. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers, too. And so that's going to be the big challenge, and it's going to be the incumbent on the defensive line to be able to create pressure. And I think that's, in the final analysis, when you look back at what's happened and the fact that the Vikings probably are not going to win the NFC North, when they really had a great opportunity to do it this year. And you think back to the first Green Bay game, the fact that they had the ball with 5 minutes to go, 8-yard line, first and goal, and Cousins throws a ill-advised interception. Absolutely no reason to throw that ball on first down, especially. And they'd been running the ball down the field, down their throat. So that one haunts them. And I think the other one that really haunts them to me is the Kansas City game when Mahomes was out and they've got the ball with 2 minutes to go, tie game, and go 3 and out, give the ball back to Kansas City on a bad punt after a bad punt, and Kansas City goes down and kicks the winning field goal. Those two games, I think, haunt them at this point. If they had one of those games, they'd be in a position where they could still win the division. But now it's really a very big long shot to presume, even if they beat Green Bay, that Green Bay is going to lose to Detroit.
Right, absolutely. All right, let's pick this game. Last week I screwed up. I picked the Chargers. I just didn't like the matchup, or the Vikings playing on grass, and of course the Vikings won in a blowout. This week for me, it's a much easier pick. The Vikings are a dominant home team. The Packers, they have a great record. I'm not sure how good they are. I think they're just kind of finding a way, which is a credit to it's a credit to LaFleur and Rodgers. They have found a way, and I really like Jones. I'm just not sure how good they are. I just don't see them coming in here and winning in a place they usually don't win. I like the way the Vikings played the last couple of weeks, and if they can get enough pass rush on, that'll cover up the struggles of their cornerbacks, and I do expect them to get a pass rush going. So I'm going to pick the Vikings in a 26-19 kind of game.
Yeah, I think I thought the game last week was very hard to pick, and I did pick the Vikings, but I was very apprehensive about it. And I think that in this case, going against Green Bay at home and in a game that's really, not to say it's more important to the Vikings, but the Packers have already clinched a playoff spot. Now they are in a number 2 seed position right now. And so if they keep winning, that gives them a first-round bye. But I'm not sure that registers as much to get a team cranked up as having clinched the playoffs. And they know they got the division basically wrapped up. So I think the Vikings have more to play for. I think they're at home where they're undefeated. They're very confident at home. And I think Cousins and company feel like they have something to prove from that first game for retribution. And I would feel better if I knew Dalvin Cook was 100% ready to go, or Madison, even though I like Mike Boone. But I still think the Vikings can run the ball. I think they have confidence in doing that. And the tight ends have played a bigger role. Adam Thielen is back now, and he'll be more confident next week, and still had 3 catches last week. So I'm going to pick the Vikings. I'm going to go 27-20. I think you're right about a 7-point spread. I agree with that, and I think Minnesota wins this game and clinches their playoff spot if they hadn't already been done on Saturday night by the Rams getting beat.